Hey guys, my name is Ryan and welcome to Overwatch Central. Today we're going to be doing a bit of a winners and losers backed up by stats on Overbuff, basically looking at the past 3 months and the meta shift and where that's going. There are some pretty interesting results, some that are expected considering the videos that we've done very recently, but also quite a few surprises in both the winners and losers category. Before we get started though, it's worth adding that there is of course some changes on the PTR currently, which I'm not really going to acknowledge in this video. If that's okay, I kind of want to focus on what's happening at the moment in game as opposed to what could happen in a few weeks time, if that makes sense. So not really going to acknowledge the PTR and the changes there, but it's not as if any of them really go against what we've been learning and finding out at the moment anyway. For this video we will be using GM stats, not because we think that it's the only rank that matters in competitive, but because each of these trends that we will highlight in this video are more emphasized, I suppose, in higher tiers. Lucio, for example, when you're looking across the all rank trends, you can see that his pick rate has dropped 2%, which isn't that much exciting, certainly not worth highlighting, but in GM he's dropped 15%. There's not really any cases where Hero's pick rate has gone up in GM and gone down everywhere else, so I felt it was worth sharing the GM stats because they're more specified and you see the trends much more clearly. We'll go through this order: winners, mild winners as there's a few, and then losers. And each of the categories will go over supports, tanks, and then DPS. There's only one winner for the supports, and that is Mercy. Looking at her pick rate, it doesn't look that considerable, but considering that she hasn't personally had any buffs, I would say it speaks a lot, going from a pretty low percentage of around 3-4% at the start of March to now closer to 10%. Of course it's going to fluctuate, go up and down, but it's the same case across a lot of the different tiers. In some others, her pick rate is about the same, but that's because she was already pretty popular in lower ranks, but it is interesting to see GM starting to pick her up. It does coincide with another support hero's drop, which we'll go over in the losers, but as you can imagine, Mercy's been used in a lot of compositions. We've highlighted bunker comps in the past, we have the clockwork composition that's come out in popularity too, but I guess most importantly, Mercy's just the best support to run when you have teammates playing like 3-4 DPS, no doubt some of which are snipers, or Farah as an example. These high damage DPS heroes Mercy synergizes really well with, not to mention if the team is running 3-4 DPS, the tank on your team is most likely going to be an Arisa, as we've highlighted in another video going over her, so Mercy is just the best option to solo support when she needs to, but also does synergize well with a lot of compositions that are going to run stuff like Junkrat, Widowmaker, the like. You know how it works, that's rising in popularity, Mercy is rising in popularity. We just mentioned her, we need to go over Arisa. There's a reason why they're calling this the horse meta, and that's because no matter what teams are playing, Arisa's going to be involved. Her pick rate, as you see in the GM, has skyrocketed from the similar sort of place that Mercy was at, but well reaching 10% and still climbing. Like I mentioned, bunker comp, clockwork comp, which is a new thing that I suppose we may talk about some other time. It's the Arisa Roadhog May Torbjorn strategy. We did a video with the team talking about how it works if you haven't checked that out already, but Arisa is involved in that composition. And again, bunker comps is starting to become a very popular thing, especially in the highest tiers. It's still an element of early days to see whether this is a fad or whether this is going to be like a new meta past goats, but considering that Blizzard really want to push goats as a composition far away from what is meta, it would surprise me if we sort of come full circle and go back to these slow stationary compositions. Some people love playing Arisa, some people really don't. I guess a good portion of the community also don't want a slow composition like bunker being incredibly meta across different maps. I agree, that would suck. I just want to see this composition where it's good and a rework to the Paris map, because that's the worst place to be running into an Arisa. But like I said, if you are solo tanking, Arisa is the best option, just sitting on the payload and throwing out a good amount of damage, and just try to look out for yourself as much as possible. Another winner, really easy to explain why this is the case, Roadhog. Wherever Arisa goes, Roadhog tends to follow. His pick rate has gone up in a similar sort of direction to Arisa, but not quite hit the same regard. Roadhog is also a lot of fun to play. He is a hero that you could definitely pop off on, and certainly one of my favourite heroes to play, but I have to be in the right mood. And much like Zarya, just a lot of DPS oriented players like to play him, because you could do some significant damage, and he's also great in just a lot of different compositions, especially in competitive, where all you really may need is just one pick. And you can certainly do that as Roadhog and do your own thing. Very easy to explain why this is the case, and I'm really happy for the guy, as we've highlighted in a previous video. Roadhog is in such a good spot, and I'm really happy to see him there. Considering that he's not had a rework at all, or any major changes recently, it's quite surprising. We have two DPS heroes that are on the list of winners in this video, and they're both quite surprising in very different ways. The first, I can't believe I'm saying this, is Torbjorn. Yeah, he's actually done really well in terms of pick rate. Again, most easy to spot in GM, but it's definitely the case across all of the tiers. His pick rate has certainly gone from 0% up to a reasonable amount. This isn't crazy, this isn't Roadhog or Arisa levels of pick rate, but it's still quite surprising again that this hero is finding his feet. He is involved in the clockwork composition, but again, really good on bunker. A lot of these heroes you can run into a similar lineup, and it makes sense why they're all going up in pick rate. We've highlighted this plenty of times, but Torbjorn's pick rate has gone up more than people like Junkrat, Widowmaker, Hanzo. There's more of a spike, not quite reaching those levels of pick rate, but this is the biggest swing that we've seen for the hero in quite a long time. And the next hero, which is even more strange, is Doomfist. Now Doomfist, you could tell when he got his buffs recently, his main two abilities of the uppercut and the ground slam had their cooldown reduced by 1 second to about 5 seconds each. And you can see the impact that it had on his pick rate. It hasn't risen over the past 30 days or so, but you can see when those changes came in sort of towards the end of March, and his pick rate stayed around the same place. But I guess much like previous iterations of Doomfist, his pick rate is slowly making his way up, and he's incrementally trying to make his stamp on the meta. This is really surprising because unlike the other heroes that we've highlighted, Mercy, Arisa, Roadhog, Torbjorn, they can all be used in a composition. Arisa and Roadhog went up in popularity, so a lot of those stationary heroes went up in popularity too. Doomfist is more of a dive, disruptive, tank buster kind of hero, so he's not really used against bunker comp or with it, so it's weird that he's gone up in pick rate too, I suppose, and is doing moderately well. He's doing okay in terms of pick rate, not the best, but I think he's in a suitable spot where if you are a Doomfist player, you can play him and do quite a lot, but he's not, completely obnoxious to play against as he has been in the past. We'll go over this next lot very quickly. I don't want this video to be too long, but we have a few mild winners that I want to highlight really quickly. The first is Yatta. He's been a bit up and down recently, but he's now getting to his most popular spot since Baptiste's addition. You can see a little flick right up at the end where his pick rate is risen a little bit, and no doubt he is one of the better options to run in a bunker comp and in a lot of different compositions, to be honest. He's still a very strong hero. He's not gone up or down in popularity. If anything, he has gone down a little bit, but considering you're looking at the competition at the moment, he's holding his own, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to highlight Yatta as being a mild winner. Hammond is the same, there's no meaningful change in the highest tiers, but pick rate when you're looking at all of the other ones has improved. No doubt this is just players now getting to a point where they're comfortable picking him, and playing with Hammonds on their team. It's now a good time that players feel familiar, almost a year on since he was added into the game. Of course, that's understandable, he is a very awkward hero to get your head around, but he's also a lot of fun if you can perfect your playstyle. Glad to see his pick rate start to go up, even without any major changes coming to him. He had some nice quality of life stuff a few months ago, but that's not solely the only reason why he's going up. Widowmaker and Hanzo, as we've highlighted, bunker comp, they're really good in it, double snipers, multi-DPS compositions, they've been picked a lot, but their pick rate hasn't risen dramatically. It's gone up a little bit, but not enough to really highlight them as winners. This is just a nice meta to play them, but also what you have to bear in mind is that this is competitive. The amount of Widowmakers and Hanzos already in the game is somewhat inflated. Regardless of how good those heroes are, people are going to play them because they want to pop off and feel good about themselves, which is fair enough. So they have gone up in how impactful they can be, but their pick rate's about the same because they got picked anyway. Does that make sense? So yes, mild winners in my opinion. The other two are Mate and Junkrat. These heroes, again, bunker comp, clockwork comps, all those kind of things that you can imagine these two heroes being in, they work well with, but their pick rate hasn't gone up as much as Torbjorn or anybody else. It's done okay. It might increase in the future for these two heroes, but right now at this moment in time, it's stayed somewhat the same, if not gone a little bit up. And now we have 5 heroes that are definitely on the losers list. We have 2 for the supports, and the first is Lucio. Like I mentioned at the start of the video, looking at all over the past 3 months, you can see a little bit of a dip. It doesn't look too dramatic, but looking at GM, you can see over time that it's just petering out completely. It doesn't look like much on the graph just because it's a slow decline as opposed to a steep one, but look on the left hand side of the pick rate. He's gone from around a 15% pick rate down to 5.51. It's very dramatic in a sense that he almost had 20% pick rate. He did at the start of March, and then has dropped off dramatically, now at his lowest point in a long ass time. Much like Mercy's pick rate going up, Lucio's has gone down. The desire to run dive compositions or goats or any form of tanks using him to run at the team has gone down in a slow and steady rate. The game has slowed down quite a lot with stationary compositions, so it's no surprise that Lucio's pick rate has gone down. It looks more dramatic when you're looking at it over the past 3 months, but over the past 30 days, his pick rate has remained fairly consistent. So it's not an end of the world scenario if you do play Lucio, but this certainly isn't a good spot that he wants to be in, which is one of the reasons why I feel that the meta as a whole is definitely starting to shift. The second support that I want to highlight, and it's really sad to put him on this list, is Baptiste. New toy syndrome has been used to describe this hero, and it couldn't be more apt for him. His pick rate goes up when he came out, and has dropped back down, and is really struggling to rise again. For me, he just doesn't bring enough to the table. This is definitely his meta. He's really good in these compositions that are stationary. But you have Yatta, you have Anna, who I want to talk about very shortly, who are all in a really good position. He can't res targets. The immortality field is okay, but can easily be killed or just worked around. You can easily get what you want done. So not in a good spot. It's not terrible for Baptiste, but it could certainly be better. For the tanks, these are really easy to explain. Reinhardt and Zarya. Again, that kind of traditional 2-2-2 lineup is drifting off again. Goats is certainly drifting off too. These comps aren't being used an awful lot. Dive with Winston and D.Va, as we'll highlight, is doing okay, but this more traditional tank line of Reinhardt and Zarya is certainly dropping a lot. I think players are just bored of playing them at this point, as they've been very meta for almost a year. So it's no surprise that players are dropping them for other options of tanks, especially with what I've said about Arisa so far. And then we have one DPS to highlight for the losers list, and again, really sad to see him here. It's Soldier 76. He had an exciting buff alongside the addition of Baptiste, upping his damage to 20 per hit, but it's led to a disappointing pick rate again for the hero. It's not as bad as it was before, but you can see kind of how it petered out, and people have kind of gone, he's okay. Considering that either Ashe and McCree, whose pick rates haven't gone anywhere over all of this time, Soldier could have made a splash but really hasn't. Even in the pro scene, his pick rate went up as players started trying him out and then just petered out towards the end. Not exciting, and these are the main losers that we wanted to highlight today. Before we finish, I had some notable mentions of heroes that have not really gone anywhere, but certainly still worth pointing out because they're either really good or really bad. Anna has a really good pick rate still. She's one of the most popular heroes in the game, certainly the most popular support. Her pick rate is still higher than Zenyatta's by a decent amount, not majorly but still there. Much like Widowmakers and Hanzo's, players want to play Anna, regardless of how meta she is. So she's definitely a winner, but her pick rate hasn't increased or decreased, it stayed the same, but certainly worth highlighting, she's still queen of the supports right now. Winston and D.Va, as I briefly mentioned, they're down a little in terms of pick rate in GM, but it's around balanced across all of the other tiers. Dive has still been used, they're still a popular tank line, but again, not gone anywhere. Bastion and Symmetra are the final ones that I did want to mention as notable mentions. They are heroes much like Junkrat, Widowmaker, Torbjorn, and can be used in those compositions, but their pick rate hasn't gone anywhere again. So I'm not saying that these heroes are bad in particular, you can still definitely run them, but the stats out there to back them up saying, yeah, these heroes are good now, you know what I mean? So worth highlighting, I still want people to try out Symmetra and Bastion in these slow bunker comps to see if they work. But as I said, the stats out there to back up an increase in pick rate, which is what we're looking for today. The other heroes that we haven't highlighted, Genji, Tracer, Sombra, McCree, Ashe, Moira, Brigitte, have gone nowhere and not really much to talk about. Same old for those heroes. But that is everything that I wanted to go over. You're seeing on screen the list of winners and losers over the past 3 months. As we're now moving into a new meta, we may chase this up in a couple of weeks' time to see where the meta is as a whole, but we have been focusing quite a lot on the Arisa, Roadhog, Baptiste stuff, the synergy there, the Clockwork compositions, interviews with all of these people surrounding it. It is a big focus, and I'm really excited to see where it goes from now. Thank you very much for watching, take care, and I'll see you next time.